In the West, one of the things that is done is good ideas are bundled with bad ideas, and then sometimes the powers that be will create they'll plant seeds like disinformation seeds to discredit good ideas, or they'll misrepresent ideas, and this happens on all directions. And one of the things, of course, is that as people, as human beings, we're somewhat tribalistic, right? So it creates a perfect storm. Some of us attach to some ideas, others of ourselves attach to other ideas that are apparently at odds with each other. And then it's sort of a divide and conquer thing. Now, this isn't just happen in religions. They do this in political ideologies. So it's something you see a lot. I mean, it can be difficult to unwrap these things sometimes.
You know, you make me think of the personality cults that we're presented with. You know, false heroes very often, or call them real heroes. But we're told about Obama's policies as if Obama is making the decisions, and Merkel, what Merkel is doing. And I mean, at best, they're politicians that are just compromising everybody keeping the peace. But I think we're misrepresented in the media to believe that these great personalities are dictating policies, and I doubt it very much.
I think a lot of people doubt it, and it's what's really, really weird about that is that people actually hold both beliefs at the same time. It's like doublethink, right? Because people, if you ask anyone, well, you know that Obama doesn't really make the decisions, they will go, right, I know. And then the same person will say, oh, well, Obama's policy this, or Obama's been a failure that. And it's so strange because people hold these, both of these views at the same time. How is that possible? It's how the brain works. I mean, people aren't as logical as they think.
We're addicted to the whole democracy game, and it's kind of I don't know. It's a pacifier. We to keep our sanity, we have to relate to it and repeat it.
Right.
But all for the wrong reasons. There no doubt are leaders. I'd like to think Putin is one who does dictate policies. But the broad mass of the Western politicians are mouths are sealed. You know, they can't think either. They can't be informed either.
Yeah, it's democracy is one of those strange things because I think that it appeals to our egos in a way, because every individual would like to think that they know enough about what's going on, that they can make the decisions that affect other people. There's something almost tyrannical about these democratic impulses. I mean, I don't trust really that someone on the other side of the country or the other side of really the planet, if you're talking about a big country like the U.S., that they know what's good for me. I think there's basic things that we can all agree on, but once you get beyond some very basic things, it really breaks down. I just, one of the things with democracy is that it's presented as being, imperfect but better than other things like theocracy, monarchy, dictatorship, other forms of republics that don't involve an elected executive branch, and I think that we're so programmed to think this way that we don't explore good ideas that exist outside of democratic theory. I'm not saying that there's other systems that are necessarily better or without problems, and I'm not even sure that humans are capable of solving social problems of scale, right? I mean, are we primarily spiritual beings? Politics is sort of very materialistic inherently, and we're kind of souls that are in bodies, and then we're trying to solve problems that exist to our physical reality, right? There may inherently be no solutions. I mean, and then we're all going to die, and then if we sometimes what we do is we abstract the fear of death and we make it a fear of other people. We make it a fear of bad political ideas, and we take fears that relate to larger existential things and we make them about politics.
Well, I mean, one thing must be clarified is that we're dealing with representative democracy as well. We're,
That's what I'm saying.
we're voting for individuals, not even for ideas. But it would be nice to consider what could replace it. I think Ron Paul might have been on the right track in terms of decentralization. I mean, it's just too big. It's too big now.
Yeah, the Ron Paul project was very interesting. It really struck a nerve with a lot of people, and in terms of the theory of libertarian model of capitalism, there are some incoherencies that are built into it because all political ideologies have incoherencies. You can unravel them. But what it represented really, of course, was like this understanding that Obama had been a big fraud, was a very big betrayal. And a lot of the Ron Paul support was not only about decentralization, but was also this anti-imperialism and this disgust and this, whether you're looking at the economic problems arising from war or the moral problems arising from America's wars. I think a lot of Ron Paul voters correctly saw what a problem this was. The decentralization thing is another big part of it. One thing that sometimes gets overlooked, I mean, I support decentralization for the United States. One thing that gets overlooked, though, is that political power doesn't give rise to economic power, but and it can, but in the final analysis, those with the most economic power will have the expression in terms of political power. So, in other words, if you're going to say we're going to decentralize things, well, how? If you're going to say you need a smaller government that's weaker, well, it's the corporations and the trusts that, the monopolies are strong. So that means you need to have a government that is stronger than the monopolies to break the monopolies. On the other hand, once that government is stronger, well, then the very same corporate interests just lobby to control the government. Or other individuals that are non-corporate can be corrupted by the power, by virtue of having the power, and assume power in different ways. So, it's almost like these are human problems, but I think there are solutions. But it's I come from a certain time and place, and I'm just one person. And I'm limited by my experiences and the things that I've read. So it seems more like what I'm more concerned about is that other people are not being allowed to explore, everything. Whether it's direct democracy, anarchism, National Socialism, fascism, monarchism, I don't care. What I'm so concerned about is that people are not allowed to explore these.
Yeah, there's a monopoly of thought going on, and it's really... like you'd expect from an extreme right. Thinking of solutions, I would look at the Green Book, Gaddafi's Green Book, and I'd also look at whatever's written in the Quran about a caliphate, which I'm not so familiar with, but a lot of Sharia law does make sense in terms of how to live together, I think.
Yeah, a lot of... Yes, sorry.
No, I finished.
A lot of Sharia law makes sense. A lot of religious law makes sense. I think that the fundamentals of religions, of the golden rule, modesty, not like physical modesty. I'm not talking about showing skin, but we're talking about humility, right? A lack of being dispensing with the ego, knowing that we're children, right, in the eyes of creation. I think that when people get ahead of themselves or get too big, they think that they have answers for other people. They haven't walked in those shoes, and only the great big one, only the one really understands and can make decisions about everyone's fate. And it seems that when people try to play that role, they inherently fail. But there's great ideas in in Islam, in Christianity. There's great ideas in Buddhism and Hinduism, in various traditions of so-called pagan and primitive peoples all over the world. In Northern Europe, the old Celtic and Germanic religions in Latin America. There was always Chavez talking about the Popol Vuh, and it's an ancient South American religious text, and there's a lot of answers in there. One of the things about the Western tradition in the modernism is that it has so much arrogance when it looks at the past, and then it views pre-modern people. Even when I say pre-modern, we're making this linear kind of conception, and that the more closer to the present we are, the more advanced and therefore better. Mm. So, but it seems that a lot of people had answers in the past, and
they had more concentration as well. There's the element of what they call cultural Marxism, and there's the concept that our democracies, our governments are appealing to the lowest common denominator. I mean, let's face it, the bulk of people aren't really into increasing their awareness. And
That's right.
it seems like a lose-lose scenario. There's nothing. I mean, you could end up with a Machiavellian attitude.
That's true. I think with the cultural Marxism has been developed quite effectively by the powers that be. What's kind of a sad twist of fate is that originally the cultural Marxists were looking at how to overturn the present system of capitalism, of exploitation, of materialism. But their work was hijacked, and it was turned against itself by the later end of the Frankfurt School thinkers. But the original cultural Marxist was Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci, in Italy, and what they were looking at was the fact that here people, this was right at the time that radio was coming out, and this is before television, and they were looking at how even though people knew that they were being exploited, even though they knew that the system was a lie, even though that conditions were not good, they didn't have the cultural background. They didn't have the culture of resistance. That the capitalist culture was so pervasive that it worked against attempts to overthrow capitalism or usury and the control by the banks. So, just sort of create I have to make a parenthesis. Other people will say that the problem's not capitalism, but it's corporatism and state monopolies, and I don't that's a very good argument too. But I'm just talking about in the language of the Marxists and the ideas of the Marxists. This is another one of those things we're talking about where opposition seeds are planted, and then there's disinformation, misinformation. Just like any belief system, there are good side and a bad side. And human beings can turn it bad, or they can find what's good in it. Whether you're talking about there's different faces to Christianity. You've got your, criminal evangelical preachers on TBN that take, the last pension check from 70-year-old ladies, right? And they buy, $40 million yachts, and they call themselves Christians. And likewise, there are Islamic preachers that in fact are breaking every fundamental tenet of Islam. They're total bigots. They're total hypocrites. So, and likewise with the Marxists, there were some, I'm not even speaking about Karl Marx, but there were some very, very good and thoughtful and intelligent anti-system revolutionary people within the Marxists. But, everything can be taken out of context and warped. So, yeah, I mean, the cultural Marxism is definitely one of these big success stories for the powers that be, because like with other belief systems, they were able to twist it and turn it into they were able to turn a tool potentially of liberation into a tool of oppression. So it's a complex subject, but there's always more to it, right?
Well, you referred earlier to the hubris of thinking we're more advanced than the people in our past.
Right.
And I think that's probably not true, and not all people subscribe to that view. Judaica actually thinks each generation is more dumb, so to speak, less intelligent. But you look at the masses of people now and what we call democracy, and there's really little hope left in my mind.
Yeah, I have hope, and I'll tell you, it's the world's a very big place, and and you can see in people that it's well, I would back up and say you can't have faith, right, in the world in the first place, and I don't want to come across like a Seventh-day Adventist or something like that, but I mean, look. This world, we're human beings, right? And we have to eat, other living things to survive. So this kind of predatory thing is built into us. It's a fundamental part of the human experience, right? I mean, we freaking eat animals and plants, right? And they're like living beings, right? And so, I mean, who are we, right? And we like to think, that we're good people. And I think a lot of us are, and some of us aren't. But even good people, we hurt people's feelings sometimes, or we've made mistakes. We've given people the wrong change. I mean, you see, there are politics is just like one part of things, and obviously we live in a world right now where if there was some sane people making decisions, everyone could be guaranteed affordable housing. Everyone can be guaranteed affordable health care. I disagree with the notion that you need to make it a dog-eat-dog competition to arrive at maximum efficiency in the workforce so that people are scared of dying, so they work harder, and therefore we all get rich. I don't agree with that. I do think that there's a role for markets and entrepreneurship and creativity and private ownership as well. But everyone certainly deserves the basics, and they should also certainly limit population growth as well at the same time. But however, that doesn't mean that people should be exterminated or be given diseases. There's lots of ways that you can encourage people to, have 2 children instead of 5 or 10.
Yeah, I'm sure the solution is a kind of spiritual awareness and being creative and seeing each other as spirits. I mean, we're wasting all our material wealth on weapons and wars, but I think
that's a fair point.
You've raised an issue which I don't think will go unchallenged. A presumption that we all eat animals, and that's not true. And also, even plants. There are religions that don't eat food until it's fallen, when it's ripe.
Mm-hmm.
There was a prime minister of India who actually followed that, so it's not quite so obscure as we might imagine. And indeed,
well, I read, I don't know if it's true, but I read an article that said that more than half of vegetarians eat meat when they're drunk. And I don't drink. I think it's haram, but there are half of vegetarians actually do eat meat, and then it's being implied that people like to say that they're vegetarians when they're not because of the social. I don't know. I mean, within their milieu, within their circle of friends, it's kind of like a thing.
It's possibly totally valid for the Westerner, for all I know. But there are deeper people around. The Indians, half of the Indians are vegetarian, and
yes.
I don't think they would touch meat. And
yes,
I think it's another video we could talk about, because I think the issue of eating meat is really perhaps the root of a lot of our ills.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. A lot of ills from eating meat. I tried not to eat meat for a while. It was actually economically driven. Times were hard and meat's very expensive in some parts. And but I did have a lot of access to high quality fatty vegetables, nuts, legumes, and beans. And I tell you, to be honest, I was not healthier for it. That's just me personally. Maybe there's different biospheres and genetics involved. Or
I think living in the city does not lend itself to vegetarianism.
That could be part of it too. Yeah.
That's my personal experience here. I mean, I eat fish and eggs, but
yeah,
no meat.
Well, fish. I mean, fish is meat.
You're correct. You're correct, and that's why I said it and I owned up to it. But no, absolutely no animals, and I don't miss it. No problems.
Yeah, I mean, fish is probably the best meat that you could eat health-wise.
Well, Joaquin, thank you,
Yes.
and for allowing me to bring it down as well. I'm sorry if I detracted, but it wouldn't have gone unchallenged.
No, no. When I obviously I'm aware that there are vegetarians in the world. I was just saying we all eat meat in the general sense of the human experience, not every individual.
Yeah, we're supposed to be the highest level of all the animals, which
Yeah,
I think is
I
what
don't
you're
believe it.
intimating.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your time again.
Thanks.
Thanks.